Yes,
Yes.
4 weeks.
The live stream is on and I'm starting to record.
Recording in progress.
Okay. The chair calls to order the January 26, 2022 meeting of the Kansas Governmental Ethics Commission. Welcome back, commissioners and staff. In the materials that Sherry has provided, you have today's agenda and the minutes from our November 17th meeting. Can anyone identify any corrections that should be made to either the agenda or minutes as written? If not, I'd like a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Jerry. Is there any additional discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes and agenda signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed say nay. The motion passes. Turning to the agenda, we'll begin with an executive director's report. Mark?
Thanks. So during the legislative session, typically the executive director's report includes a few different things. It includes the budget overview of where we're at, as well as any legislative updates that we have. So first, about the budget, the governor released her budget about 2 weeks ago, and very glad to announce that for the first time in quite a while, the governor's budget has some good news for us. We requested two changes. One of the changes was for a restoration of the state general fund amount that was reduced from our budget when the state needed to shore up some ending balances near the end of the pandemic, when ending balances were looking like they may be rough. We are able to receive that amount back again now that the ending balance is looking better. So essentially it's made that part of our budget whole, and the governor did recommend that restoration. Secondly was the salary plan, and there's the governor recommended all of the recommendations that the commission had on all positions except for the director. For all staff, our recommendation was adopted, which is great. I'm very excited for that news. And for the director salary, the governor, of the amount that the subcommittee and the commission ultimately recommended, the governor increased the governor's recommendation was 29% of the amount that was recommended by the subcommittee and the commission. So they gave some of the increase, but not all that was ultimately recommended. They are having an extremely accelerated budget timeline. Those of you on the subcommittee watch for an email from me probably today or tomorrow that I just received in the last hour or two, the full budget committee rundown and what the schedule looks like. And we'll discuss how ultimately this is the commission's decision about how to proceed, whether to take the governor's recommendation or to advocate for the full amount that the commission landed on. I think there's great arguments in either direction, but ultimately that is the commission's decision, since technically that is a commission recommendation, not a recommendation from me. But I'll talk to the subcommittee first that handled the issue, as well as the chair, and then from there I'll make sure that the full commission, however, is updated on the status. So that's the end of the budget update that I have. I'll let you in. I anticipate that at our next meeting, we will know quite a bit more, because our next meeting, they're actually putting all of our budget hearings at the beginning of February. So we will have everything happen very, very quickly in the space of about 2 weeks. So we'll know quite a bit here very shortly. Anyone have any questions about the budget update before I move on to the legislative update? Great. The legislative update, we had two legislative recommendations. The first was for mandatory electronic filing. That is something we've obviously been advocating for quite a long time. It was a little delayed. The House committee that we normally introduce our items in has not met. And we originally were going to present our annual report. Even the presentation of the annual report has been delayed somewhat as well. I do anticipate that we'll be able to proceed in House elections in the same manner that we have in the past. I hope to be able to reschedule the annual report presentation shortly. In the Senate side, we've been able to do the annual report presentation. It's my understanding that we will be able to introduce the bill tomorrow. And there was already an informational hearing essentially about that topic today. And the Secretary of State presented quite a few details on the electronic filing system and answered many, many questions from their staff. The Secretary of State's office also notably supported mandatory electronic filing, though obviously with the bill not introduced yet, they don't see the text, but they do support that conceptually. And that is, I think that's great news for us. It's obviously it helps their office as well as it helps us. It would be a huge, huge quality of life change for, I think, many, many people and candidates as well, though maybe they don't realize, some of them don't realize that yet. So we're really excited about the possibility of e-filing this year. The Senate committee did seem a little reticent at this point, but I do think the Secretary of State's office was extremely effective at addressing some of the concerns that they were that they had shared with us, and is taking a proactive stance at making sure that if people do have concerns, that they are willing to address them. So the cleanup bill is has not been introduced in either chamber. I don't really anticipate a lot of hang up with that as well. But again, I haven't really talked to very many people about that other than that just to note that our procedural cleanup bill is likely to be introduced shortly. I don't anticipate a lot of pushback. I think that they're all very straightforward procedural issues that don't really change our day to day, but they ensure that statutes line up properly with actual practice. Does anyone have any questions about the legislative update or comments, feedback, anything like that? Great. The third item on the executive director's report is the status update. So on January 10th, every single entity that has a campaign finance report open, every single registered lobbyist for the prior year, every PAC, every party, everyone files a report on January 10th. Now you'll see on the executive director's report of your materials, you'll see the breakdown of the receipts and expenditures reports that we've received. Of candidates, there were 795 candidates that needed to file. We only still have 44 outstanding reports. We've sent failure to files to all of those individuals and anticipate that that number will come down quite a bit. The civil penalties for the January report are much more permissive because it's not around a primary or general election. There's a 15-day grace period instead of 2. And we also typically delay sending the failure to files until we've worked with candidates a bit more directly. So we give them a little bit more time in January. For party committees, there were 186 committees that needed to file, and only 16 are still outstanding, primarily central committees, which is not surprising. So that's a great number to see as well, that those the party committees are largely have already filed. For PACs, the percentage is a little higher. 258 total PACs that needed to file. 26 of them are still outstanding. And I know Katie's working with those parties and PACs to make sure that they get filed as well. Failure to files have gone out for all of those entities at this point. Any questions about the campaign finance update? Sounds great. Then that is all I have for campaign finance today, or for the executive director's report.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Turning back to the agenda, we have some civil penalties to note for the record. Mark?
Yes, the first is for an outstanding October 2021 report, and that's Hofine Boisinde for $1,000, a candidate for city council. Their treasurer, Andrea Kahn, is assessed $300. Both of those are the maximum for those respective positions. For an amended July report, Cindy Miles and Trish Heilman both are assessed $50 for late filing of that report. On the next page, there's actually 3 reports at issue here. There's an amended July 2020, an amended October 2020, and an amended January 2021 report for Diana Dierks and her treasurer, Gordon Horst. This is obviously substantially past the timeline that is normally set. At this point, we have to assess the civil penalties, which is $900 a piece, because it's $300 per amended report times 3 reports, and that applies equally to the candidate and treasurer. So that's $900 a piece to both individuals. For lobbyist civil penalties, because the January report just happened, we'll see we might have a couple more of these at the February report, though lobbyists were by and large filed most of their reports already, which is great. Very, very few lobbyists were still outstanding. Lee Carr from Kansas Cannabis Patient Advocates was 4 days late for $250. Jennifer Crow, who was representing 7 organizations. There's 6 listed there. There's one that was unintentionally omitted, and that's Health Forward Foundation. So she represents 7 organizations and was 4 days late. It's $250 per report, and there were 7 reports outstanding, so that's $1,750. Bill Cooper, who is an independent lobbyist, for $450. Scott Rothschild from the Kansas Association for School Boards, 10 days late for $550. And that's all the civil penalties that we have for today. Again, we don't need a motion. It happens automatically by operation of statute.
Thank you again, Mark. The next item on the agenda are 2 civil penalty waiver requests.
The first is Carol Merritt, a city council candidate. You have her writing there. She was assessed $250 in November. This is her first time that she has been assessed, and has since terminated her campaign account. There are really 2 items that are isolated in Ms. Merritt's statement. It appears that she was confused by the directions, and also there's a concern regarding the ability to pay, as well as general distress about her economic condition. Because ability to pay and economic condition are not typically items that we handle on a day-to-day, I have no recommendation on this item.
I would move we waive the penalty.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, John. Is there any additional discussion on the motion to waive the $250 penalty for Ms. Carol Merritt? Okay, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All in favor of approving the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion passes. We'll next turn to Lee Carr.
Ms. Carr was a lobbyist who we just assessed $250 for late filing of a lobbyist expenditure report. There's 2 items essentially isolated in her letter. The first is that she had COVID, which is a medical claim. We typically do waive medical claims. And the second was that she had some issue with her emails not being forwarded, and she takes account and personal responsibility for that. My recommendation is that typically we do waive claims that are medical. She has not received a waiver previously. I would support a waiver.
Do I have a motion?
I would move to waive.
Thank you, Jerry.
Second.
Is that you, John? Or
No, it's somebody else.
Sound like Ken.
Ken?
Ken, okay.
Thank you, Ken. Any additional discussion? All in favor of approving the motion to waive the penalty with respect to Lee Carr signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed say nay.
Aye.
Thank you, Ken. The motion passes. The next item on the agenda is a paid-for attribution review, Our Way of Life PAC.
Because it feels like it's too early to start talking about paid for attribution review, but the election season never ends, I guess. This is a federal PAC that conducted some text messages that did not have the required attribution listed in the text at the beginning of the text with treasurer or chairperson identified. They have not received a waiver previously. I would recommend waiver pursuant to our normal first-time waiver policy for paid for attribution.
We'll send a letter to her and put it in her file.
That is correct. It's a rather strongly worded letter that indicates that future violations may be subject to up to $5,000 of fines.
Okay.
I'll move to waive.
Thank you,
I'll
Todd. Do I have a
second.
second? Thank you,
I'll
Kyle.
second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor of approving the motion to waive signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Jane, the motion passes. Turning back to the agenda, we have 2 public hearings, complaint 715 and complaint 716. Looking at the live stream, I do not see anyone beyond commission members in attendance. Mark, any reason to think that we'll have anybody?
We've had some discussions with them. We've determined that the best course for today would be to continue the matter for a future month. So it is my recommendation that we continue to February for now and hope that we are able to do the hearing at that time.
Okay,
for
I
both
would
items.
I would move we continue both until February.
thank you, John. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jerry. Any additional discussion? All in
Mark,
favor?
Wait,
Go ahead, Jane.
did you intend that for both of these or just? that
Yes,
first
both
one?
of them.
I did intend that for both hearings, yes.
So the motion that's been seconded is to continue both complaints 715 and 716 to our next meeting in 4 weeks on February 23rd. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the motion to continue signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The motion passes. Turning back to the agenda, we have no executive session listed on the agenda. Does that remain correct, Mark?
That is correct.
Okay, so all we have to do is adjourn. This is a quick meeting. Are there any other items that any commissioners wish to discuss or raise while we have time? Okay, hearing none, I suppose I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I do have one question.
Sure, Kyle.
You were looking for a probable cause committee. Is that still something you need for the next session?
Yes, I will send an email and we'll get either the chair will appoint a probable cause subcommittee or we'll get volunteers. But
Okay.
we will need them to meet in advance of the next meeting, probably right beforehand.
I will unfortunately need to join by Zoom. I'll be gone. So for the next
Okay.
meeting on the 23rd.
I guess Mark will send an email, but if you can make it, if we can accommodate an in-person meeting in 4 weeks, it does sound like it would be ideal. Just we have some matters that we need to attend to. So just let Mark know your availability, and I'm sure he'll coordinate on that piece. Any additional discussion? Questions? All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Jerry. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Patty. Any additional discussion? All in favor of approving the motion to adjourn signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion passes. This adjourns the January 26th meeting of the Kansas Governmental Ethics Commission. Thank you, everyone, for your participation today. We'll look forward to seeing everybody again in person, hopefully in 4 weeks on February 23rd. So thank you and stay well.
Thank you very much,
you.
everyone. Good seeing you all.
Take care.
Take care.